So the main effect for the Civ 5 video was the glowing border on the ground. It was a really easy effect to create. Basically, it was just a shape layer that I drew out by hand along the ground on the base shot, and then lowered the opacity so that it looked more like it blended in with the scene. In this particular shot, I had to rotoscope around Ian's legs, and also around my own when I run over the border right here. Rotoscoping is one of those things that takes the same amount of time no matter how good you get at it, but thankfully all of these shots were really short, so it was only a few frames that I had to cover. And then after setting the blending mode to add, I had pretty convincingly added a yellow stripe to the ground. The only other thing I did to the border was to add a little bit of like a particle effect that's floating up off of it, and you can really only see it when it's in motion. And to do that, I used an effect called CC Particle World and applied it to a black solid. I turned gravity off so that all of the particles would just float straight up, and then set them to disappear after only a fraction of a second. And then, because I don't really know how to work in 3D space and was trying to finish the entire thing really fast, all I did basically was stretch the particle effect horizontally across the entire stripe, even if the stripe wasn't straight. But it still worked pretty well to produce the same effect either way. You can see that we have the same effect in another shot like this one, where Ian shoots Ethan in the face. The particle effect is much more visible in this one, but it's basically the same thing. We have Ian's legs rotoscoped again and all that. The gunshot effect is one of the easiest things to do in After Effects, and you can find lots of tutorials on how to do them, but basically it is just a video, in my case, although you can get an image of it, and it pretty much has the same effect, of a muzzle flare put right at the end of Ian's gun the moment that he shoots. And then you'll also notice that we have a little bit of a blood spray behind Ethan's head. That came from the Action Essentials pack from videocopilot.com, like a lot of our effects do, along with this little dust cloud that erupts right where the bullet may have hit. In another video, I might have to go in and adjust the timing to make sure that the recipient of the bullet falls at the right time, but Ethan did a great job with his timing, and he takes falls like a pro, apparently, so I didn't really have to do much in that area. Lastly, we have adding the city into the background. Basically, all I did with that was take a public domain image of a skyline. I'm not even sure what city this is. If somebody does, feel free to leave it in the comments because I'm kind of curious. I cut it out in Photoshop and then built the Civ 5 nameplate up here from scratch, just using a screenshot from the game as a reference. Then I brought that image into After Effects, adjusted it so that it matched the lighting, rotated the nameplate a little bit in 3D space to give it a bit more depth, although the city still looks a little bit flat. It was a difficult one to do because the sky is completely blown out, and so there isn't really a point of reference or anything for how much depth is actually there. But again, the shot is so fast that I think it turned out fine. After that, I just tracked the shot and linked the city image to the null object, and it looks pretty good. And that's pretty much it for this week's behind the scenes. We didn't have much behind the scene footage because we were filming really fast to get everything in before the sun went down. If you have any suggestions or requests for behind the scenes or editing videos or effects videos on things that we've already made, or just things that you're curious about, like our process for filming or anything like that, feel free to leave them in the comments, and we'll get to them during a week when we don't really have much behind the scenes footage anyway.